Welcome to our seminar on sending messages with the FarmFreshWeb app. Since the FarmFreshWeb app is really focused on messaging, we thought it would be useful to provide a presentation that talked about all of it. As we said, our focus is on getting your message out. So we focus on messaging like calendar messaging, push notifications, news feeds, et cetera. And that can work with any kind of online listing of products or no listing of products online at all. So whether you only sell at the farmer's market and you have no online presence, or whether you list with somebody like Local Food Marketplace or Open Food Network, or you want to list with us, we don't really care. Our focus is on the messaging. Here's the general idea. You have an app. We call it the Farmer's app. You create a message, and then it shows up on your customer's phone. There are lots of different variations on this, but that's the basic concept. There are some messages that we send or set up that you don't have to worry about, right? So we're going to send we're going to create a calendar message on the customer's calendar. If they use a calendar on their smartphone, we're going to ask them based on the market that they've chosen. So let's say somebody picks a market that's open on Saturdays from April to September. We're going to put an appointment on every Saturday from that April to September to remind them to come to market. Push notification market reminders. That's a notification kind of message that pops up on the phone, and we'll send it to them a few days before market and just remind them to go to market. Email market reminders. This will go along with the push notification. It'll simply be sent to their email address if they have registered with us. And then finally, recipes. We're going to add some recipes to this app, and if you've already downloaded it, you've probably seen some of the recipes we've added. There are messages that you set or send up. First, we have a group of messages we call the initial greeting and weekly reminder messages. Those are generally sent by push notification and email. We'll talk about them in a minute. And then there are messages that appear in the app, things like events, deals, coupons, and recipes. We will also be adding an on-demand push notification capability that you'll be able to use, and something called market messaging, where you'll literally be able to send messages directly from your phone to the phones of the people who pass by your booth and who have the app. It uses Bluetooth messaging. We're in the middle of developing it right now. It won't be ready for another 2 or 3 weeks, but when it is, we'll let you know. These are screenshots from the Farmer's app, and we're showing them to you to give you an idea of what those messages look like when you're creating them. If you look over on the left, these are prompts when you first download the app that basically are meant to get you to create an initial greeting message and a weekly repeating message. We'll describe what those are in a minute. Then there's the next screen over is the menu of the app. And then if you choose to create a message, you'll get something like this that'll have you choose whether you want this to be an event message, a deal message, a coupon, or a recipe. And we'll describe all of those in just a minute. And then last, you can see what the messages would look like once they are created. And that's what they look like on your phone with your app, rather than the way they look to the consumer. So the little pencil is so you can edit them, and the little trash can is so you can delete them if you want. The initial greeting message, that's basically a welcome message to customers for downloading the app. They only see it when they first download the app and open it up, and then they don't see that message much longer than that. It's delivered to customers who pick you as their farmer. So we will go over that in a little bit, but you do want customers to pick you, and that's one of the incentives that we've provided to get you to get the customer to download the app, rather than some other vendor getting that same customer to download the app. Those initial greeting messages are delivered in the app by push notification and by email. And the message that you create should thank them for downloading the app and for picking you. It should reward them with some kind of a little offer, And the reward should be something in the future rather than something right now. So in other words, download the app and then you get a message that says something like, hey, come back next week and we'll give you 50% off your first order, or we'll take a couple of bucks off of an order for $10 or more, something like that. A weekly reminder message is a message that comes from you to remind them to go to the market. It repeats every week automatically. So once you set up, you don't really have to do anything with it unless the information has gotten out of date. It's delivered in the app by push notification and by email. And the message that you create should encourage them to come back the following week. It should expire in a week if you make an offer. So if you say something like, you know, $2 off your order of $10 or more, just to pick an example, you should say expires, you know, within a week. The app should make sense for at least a few weeks. And what we mean by that is, let's say, for example, you're offering a special on tomatoes. Well, once tomato season's over, you don't want that message to be referencing tomatoes or strawberries or corn or whatever you pick. So once you create that message, you should probably review it and every couple of weeks, and then maybe change it a little bit. You know, you can make an offer for strawberries while they're in season and then switch to tomatoes when they start coming up. Event deal messages. These are basically all-purpose messages that you can use for pretty much anything you want. You can call it an event, you can call it a deal, or you can set specific dates for the message or have them always on. So let's say, for example, you're announcing that you've got corn available. You could set the date for that to expire when you think you are running out of corn, just as an example. And those messages appear only in the app to the customer. A coupon message is designed to let you deliver an offer. It appears in the app only, and it has a cool additional feature. Basically, it has a redeem feature so that the coupon can be used only once. So let's say, for example, you're saying, hey, you know, stop by and get a free tomato. Well, you don't want to be handing free tomatoes to the same guy over and over again. So basically on the app, there'll be a little button marked redeem. You click on that button, the coupon disappears and the customer can no longer redeem it. Recipe messages are designed to let you create a recipe. They appear in the app. And they appear in two places, actually. First, they appear in the news feed, which we'll talk about in a second. But then we also have a separate recipe section. And the difference is that while we want you to put in recipes that are seasonal and that have expirations for when that season's over, we also want to give you the ability to store that recipe over and over again so that somebody can use it next year, for example. Let's say when corn's back in season or whatever. They're pre-formatted, meaning that they're going to, once you choose recipe, they're going to come with labels like name and servings and ingredients and so forth. And when you start entering the data, they actually automatically increase the numbers with each new ingredient or preparation step. That'll make sense in a minute. Let me show you what that looks like from a screenshot perspective. You can see here those first two screens are from the Farmers app, and you see we've chosen the recipe type. And then you see those labels, recipe name, servings, prep time, calories, etc. We have put in the data for those. So, for example, this is 4 servings with a prep time of 15 minutes and a calorie is of 75 calories per serving. And then on that next screen, you can see the ingredients, and it says 1, 2, 3, and so forth. But that 1, 2, 3, when you initially see it, it will only show the 1 under ingredients and the 1 under preparation. And when you type something like carrots and then hit the enter key, it'll add a 2 and then a 3. And let's say I had another ingredient after butter. I could hit the enter key after butter, and the 4 will show up. And so I can list all the ingredients by number, and there's a reason for that we'll explain later, but that's the basic idea. And then finally, over on the right, you can see what the recipe would look like from the customer's perspective. And you'll notice that you can put other text at the beginning just to make it more appealing or to explain some things about the recipe. So when you've created these messages, what do they look like from the shopper's perspective? Well, the first 2 screens are basically to talk about what the customer has to do when they first download the app. They pick a market, and then they pick the farmer or artisan that got them to download the app. And remember that that's important, because when you do that, then you get to send certain messages that your competitors don't get to send. The next message over on the middle gives you an idea of what a push notification looks like, and you can see here we've shown a reminder message. And then the next 2 on the right are basically showing what regular deal and event messages look like, and then finally the recipe over on the far right. Each of those messages comes with a bunch of buttons on the bottom, and you don't have to do anything to set them up. They're already set up for you. But what they show is basically the things that these buttons can do. So, for example, if you do list online, then that first little tomato-headed guy over on the far left, when you click on that, it goes to those product listings, and it can go to any product listing, whether you list with FarmFreshWeb or some other vendor. Then the second button is a share button that lets the consumer choose to share that through Facebook or on their email. The next one over will be linked to your website if you have a website, and if you don't, we can create one for you, by the way. Then the next one over lets the shopper send an email to you if you want them to do that, to send a text message if you want that, and then finally there's a like. So how do you use all this? Well, the first thing you got to do is download the Farmers app. We've provided some addresses here that you can use, but then if you want to, you can just search for FFW Farmer on your app store, and it should show up that way. Then set up your account, provide your name and contact details. We'll get a hold of you, and then the last part is setting up the messages. And if there wasn't anything that was clear about this presentation, we'll be glad to help you and help you set up those messages as you go along. And then finally, let your customers and colleagues know. You want to put the links to the app on your website, on social media accounts, and email, and promote the app just like you would promote your email newsletter. If you have any questions, give us a ring. Our contact information is down below. You can also find us on the web at www.farmfreshweb.com. And thanks so much for your time.